There's an unmistakable feeling in the air when you are hyped. It is a dangerous combination of heightened expectations, sweaty palms, and the icy chill of thoughts in the back of it all. Thoughts like, wait, is this gonna suck? Is that even possible? No, right? But it is possible, and we all know, especially in 2020, anything can end up belonging in a garbage bin. Luckily, fans of Spider-Man can breathe a sigh of relief, yours truly included, because Insomniac has, once again, delivered on the promise of a true Spider-Man experience. It is a game that not only meets the expectation of die-hard and longtime Spidey fans alike, but surpasses them on almost every front. As the title would imply, Miles Morales himself is the star of this game, not Peter Parker. And although you can still feel, and hear, Pete's presence throughout, it never feels like it steps on Miles and his own story about family, corporate power, and friendship. It does not just recycle the powerful mentor-mentee relationship that was built up previously, and it does not make Miles into that other Spider-Man, despite what various individuals insist in the game. No, by the end of the game, Miles feels as much a part of the NYC as Peter does, if not more so. How did Insomniac nail this again? There's a strong focus on narrative and character, and tons of attention to detail. Video games based on comic book properties are well known for their Easter eggs, callbacks, and references to other media that the main star has appeared in. For example, the Arkham series has plenty of Easter eggs for villains not directly focused on in the games themselves, through little trinkets or their gadgets put on display, etc. Spider-Man Miles Morales does much the same in the form of Easter eggs that are easy to miss and ones that are hard to ignore. But it is much more than the Easter eggs that keeps this game fresh. The combat has improved from the prior game with more fluid animations, Venom powers, which Miles wields through punching, jumping, tackling, as well as invisibility, a now classic feature of Miles and his superpowers. The invisibility power-up by itself reinvigorates stealth combat, making it some of the best in gaming history. It mixes the sense of excitement you got in the previous game with the added benefit of being able to instantly hide whenever you want. This adds a safety net for when you will get momentarily caught by an enemy, and adds extra layers to boss fights. Also stacked are the options of suits which Miles can pick from. Though it is hard to imagine his repertoire living up to Insomniac's last outing, Miles Morales does just that with excellent callbacks to film, TV, and new custom suits which look stunning, even on the PS4. That said, I've heard tell of ray tracing, performance mode, and 60 FPS aplenty for the PS5. If you were one of the chosen few to get yourself a PS5, you ought to get this game and experience it in its highest fidelity. Even on the PS4, the game is often crisp, fluid, and impactful, like a good web to a goon's head. Still, I had some occasional bugs, no pun intended, with enemies clipping environments, Miles going through a building, and the game even crashing once in the 10 hours or so I put into it on my journey to 100% completion. This time, there was no screwball to stop me. Speaking of villains, be sure to temper your expectations. This is not a direct sequel to Spider-Man 2018, even if it takes place soon after. Do not expect to see the Sinister Six enjoying the reunion tour, for example. Instead, Miles Morales spends much of its time focused on, well, Miles himself, along with his family and friends against some tough but mostly interesting villains. There are even twists I did not anticipate, which made me enjoy his coming-of-age story that much more. That said, while I would not call it groundbreaking, I did get emotional at points, and it filled me with good feelings from the bottom of my stomach to the top of my heart, which is made easier by the excellent voice cast, animation, and solid writing that lends itself to a stellar, if predictable, story. The story is not the only star of the game, however. Enough good cannot be said about the soundtrack, which you can listen to in its entirety on YouTube and likely wherever else music can be found these days. A healthy mix of orchestral and hip-hop vibes, plus some electronic, makes this a 2020 soundtrack not to be missed. It will light a fire under you. Another bit of good news is that the side missions are significantly improved from Miles' predecessor. In 2018 Spider-Man, you had to constantly open the map to track any activities. In Miles Morales, however, a majority of the crimes and side missions can be accessed through the quick swipe left on the touchpad. This opens the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man app, which allows for a quick and seamless selection of any major activities that need completing. That said, there's still plenty of map checking as you get closer to 100%, but easy pin markers, incredibly fast loading times, again on a PS4 no less, and even better traversal via Venom powers makes it a blast every time. I could not even count for you the amount of times I said, "That's so cool," or "This is awesome," in this game while just traveling through NYC. The power fantasy factor is incredibly strong, and in a year where I've been able to play a Japanese samurai, a futuristic mercenary with spiky blonde hair, and the Prince of Hell himself, there is still almost nothing as satisfying to me as being able to play as Miles. Spider-Man Miles Morales takes everything that worked so well about Spider-Man 2018 and turned it up a notch on almost every front imaginable. Included in that front is the accessibility menu, which now includes options to help those who have visibility issues. There is also plenty of bilingual acceptance in this game, with Miles and his mother constantly switching between Spanish and English. And in a medium where often you have Spanish characters seemingly adding their Spanish heritage in at random, looking at you, The Last of Us 2, it felt and looked completely natural to the characters, at least to me, a white person. That said, when it comes to issues of race, it is hard to deny that the main villain or villains of this game never go anywhere near the police, instead opting for a much more corporate approach. At worst, Miles has a slightly antagonistic relationship, but it is never brought into a direct focus. And in a year where the relationship between police and people of color has reached new levels of tension after several prior years of people of color being murdered, it is hard to not look at Spider-Man Miles Morales and see missed opportunities here, to say the least. The game only touches on critical racial issues, never truly delving into bigger conflicts. Spider-Man Miles Morales may say that Black Lives Matter, but never fully explores why. Aside from these political issues and the occasional glitch, Spider-Man Miles Morales is an excellent game, worth your time. Its gameplay, while only a bit ahead of the past game, means an improvement on an already excellent formula. The graphics look better, even if you're playing on a PS4, and the story, while predictable, is carried by a strong voice cast and writing. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales is a beautiful game filled with flawed characters and heartwarming messages in a year where we need it the most. It dares you to be greater, to be yourself, and then shows you how that's done in less than 10 hours. When hype lets you down, it can make for a tragic experience, but instead, my hype has not only been matched, but surpassed. This is the ultimate Spider-Man, and perhaps the ultimate superhero game, period. Yes, pun intended. It's a 9.5 out of 10. What do you want from me? It's a great game. Go play it. What are you doing? The review's over. Go home. Go home. It's done. It's over. The review's done. Go play Spider-Man Miles Morales. What the hell are you doing? Go home.